just here to give a very brief adjudication and critique. We'd like to start off by thanking Webster School for hosting this event. I'm very grateful for their hospitality. And we'd also like to thank the students for attending the debate, listening patiently, and not talking most of the time. And hopefully you enjoyed the debate and that we all learned something today. Just a couple of points about style, and then going to move on to the argument and then announce the decision. It is very important for teams while their speaker is, well, their team member is speaking or their opposition team member is speaking, and even between speeches, to confer with one another quietly. You should not be speaking so loud to one another on the sidelines that you are distracting the other team or the audience, or in fact even your own speaker when he or she is speaking. So that's very important. A prerequisite of debating in this fashion, in these small rooms where everyone is so close together, is the ability to whisper. So, and whispering doesn't just mean lowering your volume, it means you have to whisper. So that's very important. Otherwise, we're going to miss something, and or you're going to miss something, and it's just not going to be good for any of us. The second thing is that communication with the audience is very important in this form of debate, and you cannot communicate with the audience effectively if you are reading from a piece of paper. So it's very important for you to make eye contact with the audience, to really talk to the room rather than speaking from your notes exclusively and looking down all the time. So that's also extremely important, and both teams should be aware of that in future rounds. Very quickly, the arguments of the debate. Team Japan came up and they painted a picture of countries facing dire emergencies, countries which needed humanitarian aid in order to feed starving people, countries in times of famine and perhaps even war. And the question they asked us is that if you have starving children, if you have people who are dying, should you feed them or should you educate them? This is the first question that they asked. The second point that they made was that once you have fed these people, what is the next step for you to take? Should you educate people, or should you develop infrastructure such as roads and schools and hospitals and things like that? In response, Thailand came up and brought up a lot of different points about the importance of education, how education is prior to development of infrastructure, because if you don't have educated people, you cannot develop infrastructure. You cannot have sustainable development without education. Health of mothers and children improves when people are educated, and so on and so forth. Also, the importance of education to equality and equality of opportunity. So that was their response kind of to the industrial and infrastructure point brought up by Japan. In response to the aid point, they brought up the fact that dependency on aid can create a vicious cycle of poverty, and that in order to break out of that cycle, you need to teach a man how to fish. So that was basically how the argument stacked up on both sides. The judges felt that the question of whether to feed or educate a starving child could not determine the outcome of the debate, because that is a truism. Obviously, if someone is dying or starving, you're going to have to feed him first before you send him to school. That really wasn't where the debate lay. The debate really lay about whether you would spend money on infrastructure or whether you spend money on education in a situation where resources are constrained and you have to make choices. And in that case, we felt that Team Thailand did enough to take the debate, and they have won unanimously. So congratulations to Team Thailand. Just one last point that the judges would also like to make, that it's very important to be clear where the debate is being set, and for proposition and opposition to have clear ideas about that and state that clearly. Japan was clear that of the kind of situations where you would have a you'd have the need for humanitarian aid and questions of whether to feed or educate or whatever. That, although, as we said, that we felt that was a kind of a situation where you're arguing a truism. Thailand, what we felt was should have said, although they suggested it throughout the debate, they should have clearly said that, look, we are talking about a broad range of developing countries, not just those developing countries in times of emergency, and those least developed countries that were brought up by Japan. So I think that if that had been a little bit clearer, clash would have been clearer, and the debate would improve as well. So just a point to look out for in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sufyan, and thank you, the Webster's audience.